We're talking about attractiveness. The matching phenomenon is real. If you look at yourselves in the mirror and then you look at your wife, then one of the things you're going to see is that they're probably a little bit more attractive than you are. Hi. No, that's okay. They're probably a little bit more attractive than you are. And this is known as the matching phenomenon. Since not everyone can be matched with the pick of the litter, of course, we usually pick somebody that's relatively close to ourselves in attractiveness. Now the question has to be, are you deluded? Do you think you're prettier than you really are? And the answer is no. You're probably fairly well aware of how attractive you are. So if we took an independent judge and we had them look at you and your significant other, what we would find is that they would judge the two of you about the same. We do this kind of thing. As a matter of fact, I was watching a movie last night. I Love You, Beth Cooper. It's just the funniest movie in the world. And here's this really ugly guy, but there's something about him. There are positive things about him, and so he's in love with the head cheerleader and whatnot. And so at graduation, he's the valedictorian. Of course, he makes his speech, and during the speech, he says, "I love you, Beth Cooper." And then she comes over to his house with all of her cheerleader buddies, and then they have this amazing adventure through the night, which happens to people every day. I mean, this kind of thing happens all the time. Anyway, by the end of the movie, some of the things about her makes her look less attractive, and some of the things about him makes him look more attractive. If we just looked at the two of them, we wouldn't put the two of them together. He's way, way down there. There's another movie. Wait a minute. What is it? She's Out of My League.
Oh, yeah.
Another movie where in the beginning of the movie, you look at the two of them and you go, well, there's no way in the world. And then as the movie progresses, either she gets less attractive and he gets more attractive, or we start learning about their personalities and then they get closer and closer together. By the end of the movie, when the two of them are actually together, it doesn't look that odd. But if we put them together at the beginning of the movie, it wouldn't make any sense. And this is known as the matching phenomenon. The matching phenomenon, we think it has to do with attractiveness, but the reality is it also has to do with personality. And so when we are watching a movie or whatever, or if we're looking at two people from our high school or whatever, we don't understand personality. We only understand what they look like. Like I said, we're going to have a beauty contest later on. And I got the ballots in my pocket. I'm so excited. So there you go. This may be because both men and women do not want to be with someone that they don't think that they can keep. But they want to optimize their selection with the most attractive person possible. My second wife was a lot more attractive than I am. But why did she marry me? Wait a minute, let me think. Why in the world would she marry me? She thought negatively of herself, and that was really kind of unfortunate. She was a lot more attractive than she actually thought she was. And then eventually, of course, her biggest problem was guys. It was like Penny and Leonard. Guys hit on her all the time, and sometimes I'd be standing right there. I mean, that literally happened. It was so irritating.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
I know. What are you going to do? I mean, do I beat him up? What do I do? I never beat anybody up. I just kind of laughed and tried to laugh it off, but it wasn't funny even a little bit. And eventually, I mean, so many guys hit on her. I mean, it was just a constant thing that finally she succumbed to their charms. Who's the most attractive? The one lady on the left, the lady on the right? Left to right? Left? Left? Left or right? Put your glasses on.
Left.
Left? Left, okay. It's actually the same lady, but.
I knew it. I was like,
This is her when she was young, and that's her when she was a little bit older.
interesting person.
Emma Sams. It's Emma Sams. She's Australian. Left to right, these are not the same people. I can assure you. Left to right?
Right.
Right? Right? Left to right?
Right.
Right? Right? Wait a minute, you pointed right, okay. I'm looking the other, okay, yeah. You actually pointed left when I was looking.
Your left.
Yeah, my left, your right, okay. Left to right?
Left.
Left?
Right.
Right? Left to right?
Oh, left.
Left?
Right.
Right? Wow, split right down the middle, this is interesting.
Right looks like Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, I don't know. Left to right?
Left.
Left?
Left.
Left?
Left.
Left?
Left.
Left? Okay. Left to right?
Right.
Right? Right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay, just curious. Left to right?
Right.
Right?
Left. Left.
Left? Left?
Left.
Left, okay, two lefts and a right. Okay, interesting. There's a reason why we did that, we'll come back to it. Researchers have found that adults are more likely to stereotype an attractive person with more socially desirable traits as well. Unfortunately, we think that pretty people have all the positive attributes. This stereotype, and this is one of the reasons why people that are suffer from antisocial personality disorder, that's one of the reasons why these individuals tend to get away with stuff, because they tend to be pretty people. And so they're used to getting away with stuff. They're used to being given stuff. I had a friend when I was working in Omaha. We were working at Children's Hospital together. This guy could seduce anybody. It was just amazing. I was shocked. All women were like putty in his hands. It was amazing. This guy went into a Chinese restaurant one time and seduced the wife of the guy that owned the restaurant. And she used to bring him over free food. There's nothing more irritating than somebody that gets free food.
True.
I know, this guy, and he had scars all over his back. He'd been burned as a child. He had scars all over his back. He was physically fit. Facially, I don't know how attractive he was, but women were just like, he had no problem whatsoever. He could seduce anybody he wanted. It was really kind of an amazing situation. Okay, so what happened? So Dave used to ride bicycles all over Omaha. And one day he was turning left. And a car didn't stop. The car had a stop sign and he was turning left. He's kind of an arrogant guy because, well, people gave him stuff all the time. So he figured he had the right of way, therefore the truck wasn't going to pull out, but the truck did pull out. And he ran, and being the arrogant person that he is, he didn't hit the brakes because he was right. So the truck ran into him, and unfortunately the truck had a hood ornament. The hood ornament was a Ford Bronco, and unfortunately it was a horse. So old Dave impaled himself on this horse. It hit him in the head, and it punched a hole in his head. Are you getting the picture? It through his temple. He lost 10% of his brain mass. He was in a coma for about 3-4 weeks. Went all the way into the middle of his brain. When he came out, Dave wasn't the same guy he was before. He recovered completely, except he didn't have the power to seduce people anymore. He was the same Dave. He looked exactly the same. His personality wasn't as aggressive as it was before. It had gone all the way into his amygdala. One side, he had amygdalas on both sides. But he had taken out part of his amygdala. And now he wasn't as aggressive as he was before. Women hated him all of a sudden. It was the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen. So poor old Dave, and I changed jobs, and I was a supervisor over at another hospital. So I hired Dave. I had to fire him like within 3 weeks. because women hated him so much. Why? Well, he wasn't, it's not like he was trying to seduce them. As a matter of fact, that was the farthest thing from his mind. Before, he's flirting with women and they're just all giggly and whatnot, and he could get away with murder. But all of a sudden, he couldn't get away with anything. Not only that, he wasn't trying to get away with anything, and they still didn't like him. So I had to fire him because before he used to run around in his bicycling clothes, and nobody cared. All of a sudden, nobody wanted to see him in his bicycling clothes. And so I had to fire him for sexual harassment, despite the fact he wasn't doing anything different than he was before. As strange as that may seem, I don't know. It's weird. So why in the world was he able to get away with stuff before? Because he was so attractive, because he was so sexual. And all of a sudden he wasn't sexual anymore, and women didn't find him attractive anymore, because he wasn't aggressive. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Researchers have found that adults are more likely to stereotype an attractive person. And this is true even with people that aren't supposed to see these things. People that are supposed to be immune to this stuff. Teachers and psychologists. Psychologists want, they want clients who are pretty people. And if you're an unattractive person, they don't want you as a client. They don't want to deal with you. They want you to, if you come in, then they want you to get out of there within 30 minutes instead of the hour and 15 minutes that you're supposed to be in there. It's so bizarre. So psychologists, even psychologists who know about all this stuff, they studied it for years, they are still not immune to attractiveness. It is just one of those things. So if you're an attractive person, you get away with stuff. Almost said shit. I didn't though. They get away with stuff if you're attractive. The problem is you don't even realize it. If you're attractive, you assume that everybody's getting the same thing that you are. So, well, and sometimes, and so usually you think that, well, I got an A. Why did I get an A? Well, I got an A because I'm smarter than everybody else. No, maybe because you're so pretty. And that's why you got an A. Geez, I got a C. Why in the world? I turned my paper in late and he took 40 points off. What the hell's going on? Well, you're ugly. That's your problem. You think I'm kidding. I wish I were, but it's true. Teachers want the pretty people sitting up in front. The ugly people in the back, and there we go. They put all the bad kids and the ugly kids in the back of the room, and that fits Edison to a T, doesn't it? This is true. People like pretty people, and even babies will prefer attractive people over unattractive people. Babies are afraid of large men. Babies are not afraid of small people. So they're less likely to be afraid of a female. They're also less likely to be afraid of an attractive person than an unattractive person. And they've done these studies over and over and over again, and they found exactly the same thing. Babies are especially afraid of beards for some reason. Well, one of the things that they discovered was even the preverbal children prefer attractive over unattractive. And we see it on preschool playgrounds. My grandson is cute. He's really cute. And the kid, he's like the most popular kid in the school. He hugs everybody. He talks to everybody. Why? Well, he's cute. He's cute. There is nobody that rejects him because he's pretty. I know.
My niece is like that.
Well, they're pretty.
She's so cute.
It's not my fault that I'm so attractive. I wish. When I was in school, I was cute. Especially when I was in the first grade, second grade, and third grade. I was the shortest kid in the school. I looked like, a 3-year-old. When I was 5, I looked like a 3-year-old. The girls used to carry me around like a baby doll. Which if I knew now what I knew then, I would have had a much better time, but I didn't really enjoy it that much when I was a kid. Children learn early that attractive people are happier, they're sexually warmer, they're more outgoing, they're more intelligent, they're more successful. But we all know that beauty's only skin deep, right? We all know that. Well, that's not true at all. These people are treated better. So they actually, all of this stuff is actually true about attractive people. If we look at, and they did this study at West Point, looking at Army officers. And what they discovered was the prettier the Army officer, the more likely that this individual would get an advancement in rank. They would get promoted. There are two factors. These are men. These are all men. This is when the academy was all male, and they looked at these individuals, and they could look at their height, and they could look at how pretty they were, and they could tell which ones were going to be generals. Now, the interesting thing is, if you look at all the generals today, that's exactly what we see. The prettiest guys are the ones that made rank. It's just the way it works. One of the things that I had to do when I was in the service was, in order for my promotion packet, had a full-length picture of me, and beside it was my height and my weight. If I was overweight, of course that's a demerit. If I was tall, that's a real positive thing. So the tall people tended to get promoted over short people, as odd as that is. And then we get into the attractiveness thing. This is true all over the world except for Korea. Well, the reality is that we don't trust attractive people. We don't always trust attractive people. Attractive people get away with stuff, and we know that. So in the United States, in most of the world, attractive people are not always trusted. That's one of the problems. That's true except for in Korea. And in Korea, they assume that they're more honest than other people because they don't have to lie. That's Korea. Attractiveness and grooming affect first impression on job interviews. Attractive people tend to hold more prestigious jobs and make more money than non-attractive people. This is one of the reasons why Donald Trump brags about his beauty all the time. What was he talking about? Oh, he's talking about that guy that congressman in Pennsylvania. He went out there and he said, well, I can't remember the guy's name. He was a sham, whatever his name was. I can't remember. He called him a sham. He said he's a pretty guy. The Republican was older and he had a mustache and he wasn't very attractive. But the young guy was a fairly attractive fellow. And that's what Donald Trump said. He's a pretty guy. He's a really attractive guy. Don't vote for him just because he's attractive. I think I'm more attractive than he is. He said that. Of course, this guy's in his 30s. The guy that he was talking about was in his 30s, and he's in his 70s. And here he is. He's comparing himself with this other individual. But the reality is that you can make more money if you are an attractive person. They did a Canadian study where they looked at American dollars, 1991 dollars, and what they discovered was for every degree of attractiveness, the individual made about $2,000. Of course, this is 1991 dollars, so now this is more like $3,000. So for every degree of attractiveness, you make $3,000. Let's see. I make $50,000 a year. How attractive does that make me? Maybe not. The stereotype may actually be true. Researchers have found that attractive children and adults are more relaxed, they're more outgoing, they're more socially polished, they're more popular, and they're more gender tight. In other words, they're not, they look like, if they're a female, they look feminine, and if they're a male, they look masculine. But this may be a self-fulfilling prophecy in that people treat an attractive person better, and so they may feel better about themselves. And that's one of the reasons why these people get away with stuff, and why they act the way that they do. They act with self-confidence. Of course they do. There's a movie out with Amy Schumer now. And I've just started seeing the trailers for it, but evidently, well, Amy's kind of a plump lady. She's not unattractive, but she's kind of a plump lady. So, and she gets hit in the head, and she thinks she's the most attractive person. All of a sudden, she starts seeing herself as the most attractive person in the world. It's a comedy, of course. We'll see what happens. But they're more self-assured. Of course they're more self-assured. Because they're attractive. And they get away with stuff. And they know that they're going to get away with stuff. But subconsciously, they know they're going to get away with stuff. They know that they should get things. So if you're attractive, you assume that you're going to get something over somebody else. If you're young and attractive, you assume that you're going to get something over somebody else. Researchers around the world have discovered that the same type of faces in one corner of the world are considered attractive in all corners of the world. So if and this is one of the reasons why we can have a Miss World contest or a Miss Universe contest, because the women in Japan, the criteria for attractiveness in Japan is exactly the same as it is in the United States. The last Miss Universe was in Russia, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
Was
it was in Thailand.
Thailand?
It was in Thailand.
Oh my goodness gracious, what a strange place to have a beauty contest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Steve Harvey is not in.
Oh no! Oh, that's right. You
Yeah.
screwed up, didn't you? Okay. People judge women's faces more attractive if they have large eyes and baby faces, perhaps suggesting non-dominance. So we're looking for non-dominance in women's faces. For men, we're looking for dominance, and we're also looking for maturity. So as far as men are concerned, we don't want baby faces. But women, of course, the more baby faced they are, the more attractive they are assumed to be. Wait a minute, should we? No, we won't go back yet. People perceive noses, legs, or statures that are not unusually large or small as attractive. There is no standard as far as legs, noses, or height is concerned. As long as it's not strange, as long as it doesn't look odd, then the woman or the man will be considered attractive. So that's not really important. What really is important is the facial features. When confronted with a group of pictures, most people will pick a computer-generated average face as more attractive than an individual face. The more average, the more attractive it's considered to be. This was, I mean, if you look at, let's look at Scarlett Johansson. What's so pretty about Scarlett Johansson? Why do people think she's so attractive? Because she's the shadow? Is she the shadow?
Yeah.
Isn't she?
She's Black Widow.
Black Widow, okay. I
Oh, it's like the shadow.
Isn't-
You watching?
I don't know. I don't watch those shows, so I'm not exactly sure. So what is so attractive about Scarlett Johansson? Why is she the Black Widow and not anybody else? Why Scarlett Johansson? What is so attractive about Scarlett Johansson? She was just in a movie about women that snort cocaine and get in trouble and kill people, and then somehow they get, at the end, of course, nobody gets arrested. Rough night, I think is what it's called.
Oh,
So what's so attractive about Scarlett Johansson? Does anybody have an answer? Is her face average? Is that why we love her so much? We think she's so attractive? Oh, yeah, we got two guys nodding their heads.
it's beautiful.
She's beautiful. She's beautiful. Okay, so what's so beautiful about her?
It's everything.
All right, well, yeah, there you go. Okay. This was even done with individual faces, merging left halves and right half, and the whole face, and making a whole face. The more symmetrical the face, the more attractive the individual is considered to be. And of course, the first person I have up here is Scarlett Johansson. So as you can see, this is what the original face looked like. The left symmetry looks exactly like the original, and so does the right symmetry. Her face is extremely symmetrical, as you can see. It looks like you can't tell the difference between 1, 2, and 3. Brad Pitt, on the other hand, this is the original Brad Pitt. Of course, they misspelled original. But that looks, well, I don't know. Is he the same guy? He's got kind of a smirk going on over here. It looks pretty much the same. Symmetrical faces. So the more symmetrical the face, the more attractive the individual is. I don't have any idea who that is.
Blake Lively.
Okay. Yeah. See, her face is symmetrical as well. And this turns out to be one of my daughter's old boyfriends. I had no idea. I just found it on the internet. I'm going, oh, that's Pat. It is Pat. And once again, of course, symmetrical. He had a relatively symmetrical face. So the more symmetrical the face, the more attractive the individual is. I don't have a picture of an asymmetrical face. Using computer generation and various manipulation, researchers have discovered that the more a face accentuated the stereotypical female features, the more attractive the face was considered. The ideal female face had a slightly smaller than average lower jaw, fuller lips, and large eyes. So we're looking for large eyes, small jaw, and full lips. So let's go back and look at these guys. So that's the same lady. Of course, she has fuller lips here than she does here. Or maybe she has better makeup on, I don't know. So you chose this lady. She has bigger eyes, she has fuller lips. Chin is a little bit smaller than this lady. Hardly anybody picked the blonde. This was 2 and 2. I was really surprised because this lady's got a much smaller chin than this lady does. And she has bigger eyes. But this lady has fuller lips. You guys went 2 for 2 with that one. You all picked the guy on the left, so we're looking for masculine features, more masculine features. You all picked the guy on the left. Wasn't that what happened? Okay. All right. So maybe his features are more masculine. I can't remember what happened with this one. Was it the guy on the left again, or was it the guy on the right?
On the left. No, on the right. On the right.
On the right. Okay, this guy's got more of a 4 o'clock shadow, 5 o'clock shadow, 6 o'clock shadow, a shadow. I can't remember how you guys picked this one. Oh, this is a kid though. Well, she's prepubescent. She's not. She probably hasn't started puberty yet. I can't remember how you went with this one. But this one obviously has fuller lips. I think this one probably has a smaller chin. The eye's about the same size. Fascinating, isn't it? Well, it is for me. Let's see what your head said. Despite the Stone Age Earth Mother figurines, researchers have found that men seek women who have attributes that advertise them at their sexual peak. In other words, right after puberty. So it is a teenage. As a matter of fact, if you look at pornographic sites, and I'm not suggesting that you do, but it's kind of fascinating because they seem to be hooked on not grannies. They're not looking for grannies. You do see granny pornography from time to time, but teen this, teen that, teen something or other. So we see a lot of teenage women, or women that are theoretically teenagers. You can look at their faces and go, no, she's not. She's not a teenager. But it's really kind of fascinating looking at those sites. So that's what they're looking for. Now, unfortunately, of course, if we look at all the women that are raped in the United States, or at least the cases that we know of, most rapes are not reported, of course. But if we look at most of the rapes in the United States, it is during the reproductive era, when they are the most reproductive. Those are the women that are most likely to be raped. So it's a woman between the age of 15 and 30 and 40, 15 and 40. If you look at the statistics, it's like 85% of the women that are raped are within that age range. So it has to do with reproduction. Men find them more attractive. The individual will seek a woman whose waists are 30% narrower than their hips. So they're looking for a hip to waist ratio. Of course, this disqualifies these women with skinny hips and large hips and narrow waists. That disqualifies a woman that's suffering from malnutrition, a woman that's anorexic. It also disqualifies a pregnant woman. It also disqualifies a woman who's gone through menopause, because women who've gone through menopause, their waists expand, and their hips don't really narrow, but they start looking more masculine. Their waist expands at that point, and they don't look, or their waists aren't as slender as they were before. So as far as this lady is concerned, the baby face, as you can see, her face doesn't really change that much. Her eyes are still large, her lips are still full. She almost has a baby face. And if we look at women that are considered attractive, a lot of them have baby faces. Kaylee Cuoco, who else am I thinking of? The lady in the movie about, She's Out of My League. She doesn't really have an adult face. She has a child's face. She looks relatively young, as interesting as that is. This is really kind of an interesting picture. This is the lady that smokes. And of course, if you do smoke, it dries out the skin around your mouth, and your mouth tends to have wrinkles. Okay, another beauty contest. Are you ready? Lady on the left or lady on the right? Left or right?
Right.
Right?
Left?
Left? Right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right? Okay. That's Crystal Gale, by the way. She's in the American Indian Music Hall of Fame, because she claims, I don't know, Cherokee ancestry or something. She's Loretta Lynn's sister, all right?
Mhm.
But she has hair that goes down to the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Haven't seen her lately. Lady on the left, lady on the right.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right? Right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right. Okay. Really? Why? Why the right?
Because the lady on the left looks like she's like a hardcore muscle trained-
Bodybuilder?
Yeah,
So she looks more masculine.
yeah.
Okay. All right. And the lady on the right has a softer face.
Yeah.
Okay. Almost a baby face. All right. Okay. Lady on the left, lady on the right. And these are not the same woman. You can tell by the size of their ears. Left or right?
Left.
Left?
Left.
Left? Left?
Right.
Right. You like ears?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hubba hubba. Hoop earrings. There you go. Okay. That's very curious. Women on the other hand are looking for a male mate whose body type suggests health and vigor. Once again, a good hip to weight ratio, but these are of course closer together. Muscular males are more likely to be good at providing and protecting from their appearance and have been successful in the past. So are we looking for Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was, of course, he just had heart surgery, so we're not looking for somebody that just had heart surgery, but are we looking for a bodybuilder? Is that really what we're looking, what you're looking for? Not we. Is that what you're looking for? You're looking for a bodybuilder? What kind of a male physique are you looking for?
Well, like if they're my age, I would, if I was single.
25?
Yeah. No, but and if I was single, I would look for a guy who kept himself in shape, but wasn't so
Bulky?
so yeah, wasn't prettier than me, and then but I mean kept himself in shape and kept himself in good standing, because like guys my age, they tend to
Let
get
themselves go.
really, yeah.
No muscle mass whatsoever. Okay, so you're not really looking for a bodybuilder. You're not going over to the gym and trying to find out who's the one
No.
cranking the most weight. Okay. Yeah, well, what they found out was that, yeah, women are looking for men that are healthy, but they're also looking for men they're looking for hunters. And hunters are people that can track an animal. So they're looking for runners. You're looking for somebody that is a runner. Now, normally women don't go to the track meets to pick out their next boyfriend. They're not looking for, oh, that 440 guy looks good. The sprint, I love the sprinters. There you go. That's the one I'm after. No, so where do women go to find their boyfriends? What games do they go to? What athletic? Where
Is
did they go?
wrestling.
Wrestling? Well, there's an
Oh.
idea for you.
I think
So is that what you did? You picked out a
my
wrestler?
husband's a wrestler. Yeah.
There you go. So you picked a wrestler.
Mm.
Was it his physique that you were?
Yes. And his height.
And his height.
hands are bigger than mine, so
His hands are bigger than yours.
a lot rougher.
So he's got big hands. He's muscular, and is he tall?
He's tall.
He's tall.
He's tall.
A wrestler that's tall. I guess it gives them more of a.
Yeah.
Okay. More fitting things. That's interesting. A lot of women go to basketball games to find out.
I was gonna say
Idiots.
Yeah.
that. Or the library.
You're looking for librarians. That's curious, isn't it? Okay, well, that's interesting. So facially, what you're looking for a mature and dominant face. You're not looking for a baby face. You don't want, as far as the women are concerned, men don't want baby faces. They do want baby faces. They don't want the masculine, mature-looking face. So dried up people. Okay, so the guy on the left, guy on the right. Left,
Right?
right, right,
No.
left,
Right.
right. Okay. All right. Which one is more masculine face?
Right?
Right.
The guy on the right. Yeah. Okay. Well, the guy on the left has a baby face. I'm guessing you guys are picking him because you can beat him up.
Like dinner.
The guy on the left, guy on the right.
No. Left.
Left,
Right?
right,
Right.
right, right. So you want to beat another guy up?
I'll make the
Nice.
alpha male.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Interesting. Men tend to be jealous more than women are. And of course, I was talking about this in Abnormal Psychology last night. They seek to control a woman's reproduction and ensure themselves that they are not taking care of someone else's offspring. And they've done studies looking at men who walked in on their wives having sex with another guy. And the question was, who did they shoot? Did they shoot their wife or did they shoot the guy? And in most cases, sometimes they shot both of them, but in most cases they shot, well, which one did they shoot?
Right?
I'm sorry?
Wife.
They shot their wife for being unfaithful? Does that make sense? It does make sense. Make sense? Who would you shoot?
Let's see. Be more mad at the guy.
So you're shooting the guy. Who would you shoot?
Oh, don't say that.
Well, that takes care of everything.
I can be together all they want.
There you go. Now I'm dead. So okay. Really? You're not gonna shoot? You don't. You're not gonna commit suicide. Go ahead and shoot.
No.
Okay.
I'm
Go
gonna-
ahead and shoot the one or the other, or both. You can shoot them both.
Probably both.
You're gonna shoot both of them. Who are you gonna shoot, Edison?
Probably both.
Both of them? Okay. In most cases, they shot the male. Okay, so you run home and you find that your husband's in bed with another woman. So who are you going to shoot?
Her.
Her? You going to shoot her?
I wouldn't shoot her at first. I'd like beat her up, pull her around naked outside, and rub her on the
Yeah, of course
concrete.
that's what you're going to do.
Then I would like tie her to a pole naked and let everybody see her, and then I'd shoot her.
So you're not going to hurt your husband?
Or
again?
no, you know
What
what? After I did that, I'd probably feel relieved and everything, and then I'd probably shoot my husband.
Oh, there you go. Okay, good. I was just wondering if he was going to get shot at all. He gets a free pass. Not only that, but everybody gets a free look at the ladies. So this is kind of interesting. Normally, men shoot the other guy, and women shoot their husband. Women shoot their husband. They don't shoot the woman.
My friend, she
Well,
caught
that's-
her husband in bed with another woman, and she just got off of work and everything, and they had a really big, nice house in Oswego by Fort Belknap.
Yeah.
And so anyway, she went in there and she just took the girl outside naked and she tied her up. And the
Nothing
guy,
but- Nothing but the husband. She didn't beat up the husband or anything?
no, what she did is she went around and she just put gas in like all the rooms and she just lit the house on fire. Had her kids in the vehicle, all her stuff, and she left. That lady was still there, and she just kept beating her up. And I was like, oh my God, you know?
Jeez.
So that was her first marriage. Then her second marriage, oh man, she's just crazy. And her name is Andrea. She's the one I was telling you
Oh,
about. My friend.
well, she's
Yeah.
Groveon, so there you go. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
she's
well,
crazy. Crazy lady.
so that's what makes her crazy, the fact that she's Groveon. Okay. I was just wondering. So interestingly, it's as far as infidelity is concerned, men are more upset with sexual infidelity and women are more upset by emotional infidelity. So the woman tends to be angry at her husband because now she can't trust him to provide for her. The man is more worried about reproduction, so he's certainly not going to kill somebody that he reproduces with. He's more likely to shoot the man. The woman's more likely to shoot, I'm sorry, both of them are going to shoot the man. That's the whole point. However, attractiveness is relative, of course. Gauging attractiveness is mostly based on who the individual is comparing the compared person to. So if you're in Hollywood, and this happened to my son, women used to come and hit on him all the time. He was a bartender at a bar, and I don't know if they're looking for free drinks or whatever, but they used to give him their telephone numbers, and he had this whole stack of telephone numbers. But he said, you know, Dad, all the most beautiful women in the world come to Hollywood to be actresses. So it's like they're all the same. They're all there's a superficiality about them, and so he was comparing them with each other. If he had gone back to high school, you know, none of these women, all these women are more attractive than the women that he went to high school with. But the difference was, of course, he could trust the women in his high school, and these individuals were just after something. So it all depends on who you're comparing the people with. One of the things about the military, it's really, in my day at least, there weren't as many women in the military. So if you went to an isolated tour someplace, like my wife was in Korea, there were a handful of women on base, and there were a lot of guys. So if the guys are wandering around looking for women, of course it's either some Korean chick or a lady on the base. The women had their pick of anybody that they wanted. It was really kind of interesting. That's true.
That is, because like when we went firefighting, there was only a handful of us ladies.
Yeah.
And like, you know, there's scads of guys everywhere, you
Yeah.
know, but we were with our Blackfeet crew and everything. And,
Sure.
we weren't with any of them, but we really found that they became very domineering and jealous, you know, like, hey.
Strutting around.
These are our women, you
Yeah,
know, you guys.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like Navajos will come up to our powwow, you know, and they'll be camping, and the old guys will tell them, hey, stay away from our women. You know? I had to throw that one in.
Too much fun. Depending on who the individual is around and whom they've been looking at lately, people tend to compare individuals to whom they have seen. Even viewing super attractive people of the same sex will make an individual see themselves as less attractive. Really kind of interesting. So you've been in high school and the head cheerleader is dating the captain of the football team. Well, he wanders off to college, and guess what happens next? Well, everybody at the college is a former head cheerleader. So rather than continue to date the head cheerleader from back home, he'll find somebody new to date because the pool is much larger now than it was before. And of course, the same thing happens with women. Not only that, but their criteria changes. People's criteria will change with time. What are we talking about? We're talking about, okay. Some of the most attractive women in the world. This is
Eva Mendes and Aishwarya Rai.
Aishwarya Rai, who was Miss Universe. Yeah, of course. back in 1980.
And a Bollywood actress.
Bollywood. And that's Rihanna and Halle Berry. Okay, attractive women. I don't know the lady on the left, but that's Scarlett Johansson. And of course, everything's beautiful about it. You just said it was. I'm not exactly sure what it is about Scarlett Johansson. The fact that all of her body parts are the same color. Her lips. Look, why does she do this with her lips? Put red lipstick on. I mean, I'm just.
Red. It's nude.
Well,
Her
That's
lip
what-
color is nude.
yeah. Well, everything's the same. Same color. Attractive men. Ryan Reynolds probably doesn't look like that. They probably stuck his head on top of a man that was really buff. I don't know. Ashton Kutcher, of course. And then there's Brad Pitt and some random guy. Is Brad Pitt really that much more attractive than like anybody else? Everybody else? He is? Okay, I just
No.
wondered. Is Ashton Kutcher really that much more attractive than everybody else?
He's adorable, but he's not.
He's just adorable, he's not attractive. And Ryan Reynolds, is he that much more attractive than everybody else?
He's hilarious. I think that's what he's got.
Well, he was married to Scarlett Johansson.
Mm.
Okay. For
Then
like,
they got divorced.
like a week. Or something. Attractiveness is not perpetual, nor is it permanent. While people perceive attractive people as more likable, they, on the other hand, find more pleasant people more attractive. So when you actually start to talk to somebody, then people change who they are and they change what they look like. Does it really happen? No, they're exactly the same person that they were before, but an asshole is an asshole, and you're not going to want to be around that person no matter what they look like. But of course you have to meet them first. I had a boss. Once upon a time I had a boss and she was very attractive. But boy, she was mean as a snake. And I'll tell you what, that attractiveness just kept dissipating every day. And by the time I left that place, I was ready to shoot her. I didn't like the lady at all. I didn't find her
I have a question.
even remotely attractive. So personality is important.
Well, I have a friend who, she really likes this guy, you know, and they're both single and everything. And he is just the biggest a-hole in the world, you know. I mean, he walks around and he says stuff like that,
Yeah.
you know. But he's good looking, you
Sure.
know, and you could tell that he's that type of person that people always give stuff to and
Right.
everything. And she really likes him. But I think, you know, like just being in psychology, I think like he's got maybe like a
Narcissistic personality?
narcissistic, and I asked her, I said, does he live with his mom, or, you know, has he ever been married? And she was like, yeah, he lives with his mom and he's never been married, but he's got one kid. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, like,
Ooh, we
If
can
they
reproduce,
fall
I'm so
in love-
excited.
if they fall in love, do you think it'd ever change? And then he
She's
had a
blinded by his
girlfriend-
beauty at this point.
Okay, and then he had a girlfriend before her, but and he always took her home, but he didn't want nobody to know. But he always took her home to mom's house, but he didn't want nobody to know. And she was saying that he's, what do you call that? High maintenance.
High maintenance people are fun. No, they're not.
So that's a narcissistic personality.
Yeah, she's blinded by his beauty. That's really kind of unfortunate. I hope that she gets over it and that she actually starts acknowledging the fact that he's not a very nice person. Yeah, that would be the best thing to happen. Because like I said, even the most attractive person that, and there was a movie like that. What was that movie? Beautiful Girls. It's an old movie. It was the first movie that Natalie Portman was in. Or maybe it was the second movie that she was in. But it was when she was just a kid. Anyway, in that movie, there's this very attractive woman played by, I can't remember which, it's some redhead. But she goes to her class reunion, and somebody comes up to her and says, you know, you're a very beautiful woman, but you're just as mean as a snake. You know? And so she starts crying and leaves the reunion after, of course. She was the head cheerleader and had this and had that and whatnot. And she didn't go. Really kind of curious, at my own high school reunion, the head cheerleader, the lady that was the queen of the homecoming queen or whatever, she didn't come back. She didn't come back to the reunion. Like everybody, almost everybody showed up. We graduated 50 years ago. Of course everybody came back, except her. She didn't come back. She lives down in Florida, and people were traveling from all over I came from here to go to my 50th class reunion. She didn't show up. But then again, she was as mean as a snake as
I
well.
find it interesting how, like Caucasians, they go to their class reunions, because I mean,
You wouldn't go?
well, we're already on like our second, and we haven't even had one. We're just like so busy, we don't even have time, When we see each other is during Indian days, and that's our reunion days.
Well, Caucasians like to show off, so maybe that's it. But not everybody was showing off. I mean, some of the people were just there to see what was going on with everybody else. There were some bums there, too. Yeah, that was kind of interesting. When people were presented with a personality profile of an individual as well as a photograph, they rated warm, helpful, and considerate people as more attractive. So there you go. So if you're a pleasant person. The happier two people are with one another, the less likely they will be looking at a member of the opposite sex as a potential love object. Monogamous relationships have been successful for eons because love blinds the person to their own mate's flaws and keeps them from looking for greener grass. So as long as you're happy with your significant other, then all these things that really irritate you don't affect you. You overlook them. You don't even acknowledge that they exist. If you love the person and you've been with them for a while. People who are married or even just friends are more likely to have common attitudes, beliefs, and values. And this was, of course, my first marriage actually broke up because we couldn't agree on how to discipline our children. My wife was, you may have guessed this, I'm kind of an easygoing person. I don't like to punish people. I don't think that's right. I figure that people will do what is right. Okay, so I assume that you're all going to get your papers in, that you're all going to get all your discussions taken care of. I assume that that's what is going to happen. And I'm not going to punish you. Yeah, I'm not going to punish you. By golly, you were 15 seconds late. And of course, there is an individual in this building who is that way. She will not accept something if you turn it in 15 seconds late. I'm not kidding. As curious as that is, but I'm not that person. But my wife was, my first wife was, and she wanted to spank the kids, and she wanted to control them. She wanted to control them, and I wanted to allow them to be themselves. Mm-hmm. Maybe she was right. I don't know, but that's why my first marriage broke up. Research seems to indicate that the greater the similarity between spouses, and she's also conservative right now. I was relatively liberal. She was conservative. And things were really not going to work out. I mean, we would argue about politics all the time, and it just wouldn't have worked out. Research seems to indicate that the greater the similarity between spouses, the happier they are and the less likely that they are to get a divorce. People who have similar ideas are considered more intelligent and more likable than people who disagree with us. Of course, they're more intelligent. They think the way that we think. Dissimilarity, on the other hand, breeds dislike. One of the strengths of the United States has been its ability to amalgamate disparate people into their culture through forced assimilation. And of course, that's what has happened in the United States. If we look around the world, we are probably the most diverse country in the world. If you look at all the European countries, of course, all the, Frenchman is a Frenchman, an Englishman's an Englishman, a German's a German. In the United States, of course, what does an American look like? Can we paint a picture of what an American looks like? No, we can't. But we can in France, in Germany, in England, in Sweden, in Italy. We can do that. Any place else in the world, we can do that. Chinese, the Chinese have like 150 different ethnic groups. Not ethnic groups, well, different types of individuals in their country. Japan. Despite that, you can still pretty much, and Northern Chinese are different from Southern Chinese. But that's the only one that they acknowledge. The Japanese, there's three different groups in Japan. There are the, what am I thinking? Oh, the Koreans, the Japanese, and the Ainu. The Ainu are Caucasians, as odd as that may seem. And they were there before the Japanese were there. But there's three groups, but if you think of somebody Japanese, you don't think of somebody that looks Korean. You think of somebody that looks Japanese. The United States is the only country that you can't really paint a picture of what we look like. It's probably somebody that relatively pale, but it may be somebody with black hair. It may be somebody that's Italian, somebody that's Hispanic. Who knows? I don't know how we think of ourselves. But of course the white supremacists want to paint this guy with blonde hair and blue eyes and whatnot. Anyway, we're the only country in the world that amalgamates this whole, we have this concept of amalgamation. The assimilation has created an idea that all white Europeans are pretty much the same. You guys probably think that we are all alike. Remember, Sarah and I are not alike, but she's Canadian. The reality is that I had a long conversation with Sarah last night. She's just a hoot. We always have such a good time together. And then we start arguing, so then it's all over. The reality is that all groups except for the English have been denigrated at one point or another in U.S. history by one generation or another, and only through discarding differences and accepting the melting pot have people gone from hated status to accepted status. This is true. You think they picked on you guys? Well, geez, the people in the United States have picked on everybody. I mean everybody. The only people in the United States that haven't been picked on are the Brits. The Germans have been picked on, and most of the immigrants in the United States are German. But the Irish, of course, they hated the Irish. My God. The Italians, my goodness, they treated the Italians like the mafia until the 1950s. Polish people, geez, Polish jokes. You guys weren't around when they were telling Polish jokes. I hope you weren't. Romanians, Hungarians, you name the country, the people in the United States have picked on it from time to time. And there are negative terms that they use for them that is very similar to the N-word, which I'm not going to use. I find that word very denigrating. So if you're Irish, there is a word that they use for you that was very, very insulting. If you're Hungarian, it's the same thing. If you're Italian, my goodness, they had so many negative terms for Italians. So if you were English and you fell in love with an Italian girl, you couldn't marry her. For one thing, the Italians wouldn't want you to marry her, but then again, your own people didn't want you to have anything to do with her. I know, this seems kind of odd. And right now, of course, there are people in the United States that don't like Muslims. They don't like people from the Middle East. There are people that don't like the Jewish people, and they have horrible names and words for those select individuals. So that everybody has been denigrated from one time to another, except for the English in the United States. Where am I?
And they're the most arrogant people too.
Who?
No, the
The
English? Yeah.
I agree with you.
I mean, this is kind of a stupid question, but they didn't have to make fun of me when I asked. They said, because I was trying to get everybody to tell me how they say hi in their language. And I seen this guy at the store, and he was saying he was from England, and I was like, oh wow. I said, how do you say hello in your language? And he was like, hello in English. Hello. And I looked at him, and but they're just really arrogant people. You can really tell, and they don't like us.
Oh no.
But here our main language is English.
And English, of course. If you go east, not here, of course, but if you go east to the south or to Boston or New York, if you have English ancestry, then you're up here, and if you have any other ancestry, you're somewhere else. But the English consider themselves better. In the South, And this goes all the way back, you know, to the 18th century. If you were English, then of course you could own a plantation and you could be a plantation owner. If you were Irish, of course, the English hate the Irish and the Irish hate the English. But of course the English own everything, so the Irish, of course, they treat them like crap. And this is one of the reasons why they talk about Irish slaves, which that never existed, but they would come in as indentured servants. And some of these people were indentured for all their lives, but of course their family was freed afterwards. So they would owe this person the passage over, then they'd have to pay it off with labor. Really kind of bizarre. Yeah, so the English are kind of arrogant bastards. Did I say bastards? I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Yes, I did. Now, strangely enough, oddly enough, I know it's like I hate myself. I'm like 56% English. Yeah, and the rest of it's German and French and Irish, as it turns out. But yeah, I'm pretty close to being English. And my name is English. Bradway is an English name. My people came over here in 1630s or something and landed in New Jersey and settled New Jersey. If you go to New Jersey today, you go to Salem, New Jersey, there's Bradways all over the place. All over the place. The main street is not Broadway, it's Bradway. I know. There you go. There used to be a Bradway mansion in the town that somebody named Smith burned down or something. Okay, so what are we looking for? So we're looking for people that are similar to us. When people are dissimilar, does it create an air of titillating danger? So do opposites really attract? And the answer is not usually. Not usually. You're not going to find a white supremacist all of a sudden falling in love with an African American princess. It just doesn't happen that way. He's looking for another white person. That's what he's looking for. African Americans mostly marry other African Americans. Hispanics marry other Hispanics. Asians marry other Asians. It's just the way it works. It's rare that somebody marries somebody who's not from their ethnic background. Research seems to show that when people are attracted to an opposite, that opposite is more likely to be an ideal of the other individual. It's an ideal. So if a black person marries a white person, they're marrying an ideal of a white person or of a black person. They're not marrying this person, they're marrying the ideal of a black person or the ideal of a white person. So while good girls may be drawn to bad boys, it may be more of a desire for the good girl to be bad and the bad boy to be good, like at the end of Grease. when he wears his leather sweater and she dresses like a slut with all of her painted on clothes. Those are the tightest clothes I've ever seen. I'm not going to show
sing that whole song
Okay.
at the end of Grease. Yeah.
That's you're the one that I want.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have our beauty contest. Okay, what I want you to write down is the most beautiful male and the most beautiful female.
Okay.
Won't this be easy?
Yes.
Of course. You already know who you're going to write down. The most beautiful male and the most beautiful female.
I don't know his name right now.
That
Hold
you
on.
can think of. So,
Oh,
Do they have to be famous?
no, they can be anybody you want. And I will accumulate these. I will accumulate these and we'll have I'll show you what everybody came up with next time. The most beautiful male and the most beautiful female you can think of. Because the reality is, even though we're not attracted to our same sex, we certainly recognize our sex as somebody is attractive or unattractive.
Can we have more than one?
Sure, go ahead. Put down as many as you want. Most attractive man and the most attractive woman. And I'll give you a slideshow next time of the most attractive men and the most attractive women. If I can find pictures of them. I probably don't have a picture of somebody's husband or wife. I probably can't can't do that. Not that you would want to have anything to do with these individuals. Not that you want to break up with your current spouse and marry Ryan Reynolds. I did this at Ashford, and of course I'm showing pictures of Brad Pitt and stuff, and of course they're going, "Oh, he's so old, he's so old." So one of the most attractive men was Sean Moore, the guy that's on SWAT. I thought I had a. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. All right. See, this is hard.
I know what he looks like. I just don't know his name. Can I just put Superman from?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
I can figure it out. Did you get it?
Not yet.
Not yet. No. Oh, this is tough. These beauty contests are hard. You know who it is? I haven't figured it out yet. Okay. Don't go looking at the picture of everybody in the world. That doesn't make any sense. I had a student from Bangladesh, and he swore that Aishwarya Rai was the most gorgeous woman in the whole wide world. And it's hard to argue. She was very attractive. Until you saw her run. She had something wrong with her knees. She ran stiff-legged. And being a runner, what could be less attractive than not being able to run? Kaylee Cuoco's cute, but I'll tell you what, have you ever seen her standing someplace? She's double jointed. Her knees bend backwards. Ew is right. I mean, ugh. How horrible is that? And of course, her real personality is not the one on television or in Hot. Yet? Nope. All right. You're so old. What do you get all these old for? I'll figure it out. You know what's going to happen. You've got 15 people on
I
here.
do. Like really trying to think hard.
Nothing yet? Okay.
Such a lie.
This is hard. Okay, so women want to be bad women and men want to be good boys. People are more likely to like someone who likes them, and this is known as attribution. You're not going to like somebody who doesn't like you. And if you do, now we've got a mental illness, don't we? Now we've got a really serious problem because somebody's going to become codependent.
What?
And this, if they don't like you,
Oh.
oh, yeah. So I like people that like me. I don't like people that don't like me. That's only logical. Why in the world would I like somebody that doesn't like me? It's like beating myself with a stick. Oh, I hate myself, I hate myself. People can use attribution as a strategy through ingratiation, using flattery to gain favor with someone else. In other words, you just keep flattering them. And theoretically, since you're showing them that you like them, Donald Trump loves this stuff. He likes to be flattered.
This is like Michael and Dwight.
He hates people that dislike him. He fires people that don't like him. So the first time they show that they don't agree with anything that he says, he gets rid of them. And that's one of the reasons why there's been such a turnover in his administration. This can sometimes backfire with people who are used to ingratiation in that they are so used to empty flattery that they see any as superficial and the flatterer as obsequious. But flattery is a funny commodity. Researchers found that when people hear negative information from a source that turns to positive information, they feel more kindly toward the individual than if they had only heard flattery. So they ignore the negative information that this person has said about them, and they accept the flattery. Constant approval tends to lose its value, of course. So the more people compliment you, if it happens over and over and over and over and over again, it doesn't mean anything anymore. This may be why honesty between spouses tends to lead to a longer lasting marriage. So if they're actually honest with one another. And we see this on television shows where the wife is just insulting the husband over and over and over again. If we watched television on CBS on Monday nights, the first television show is Kevin Can Wait. And of course, his spouses are always insulting him about his weight and about how stupid he is and how goofy he is. Yeah, and then the next show is Man with a Plan with Joey off of Friends, Matt LeBlanc, and his wife takes chunks out of him all the time as well. So honesty is probably the best policy as far as husbands and wives are concerned. Reward theory of attraction, those who reward us or those we associate with rewards we like. If a relationship gives us more rewards than costs, we like it and wish to continue. If an individual is trying to punish their parents for one reason or another, a relationship with an individual that the parents dislike is very rewarding for the individual. And sometimes we see that. You finally figured it out. Okay. Congratulations. Will I be able to find their pictures? That's the question. Okay. People also tend to like people that they associate with good feelings. Researchers created a situation where subjects interacted with an experimenter in either a positive manner or a negative manner. When the subject was then confronted with a choice of interacting with a person that looked like the initial experimenter or not, the people who had had a negative experience with the experimenter avoided the individual who looked similar to her. Or in this case, it was males and it was a her. So they found an individual that was nice to them as someone that they wanted to interact with, even though this person wasn't the same person. They just looked like that person. So if they had a negative experience, then they didn't want to have anything to do with somebody that looked like them. This, of course, we can take this and we can stretch it out and look at, let's say that you had a negative experience with a white person. And so the next time you confronted a white person, you didn't want to have anything to do with them because they had treated you so badly, or that was a negative experience. We hear these kinds of stories with individuals when they're talking about African Americans. Oh, this African American came up to me and he kept begging for money and begging for money. Now I don't want to have anything to do with African Americans. We see this all the time. People that had a negative experience. Well, I got beat up by a black guy one time. Now I hate them all. Does that make any sense? No, of course. Of course not. You were assaulted by one guy, and now you're going to wipe out the whole. You're going to reject the entire population of African Americans. That just doesn't make any sense. But this happens all the time. We see the same thing. We see the same thing if we talk to individuals about American Indians. Who do they think you are? What do they think you look like?
I think we still live in teepees and we wear like moccasins and stuff every day.
Buckskins? You bet. And you do. Oh, you don't have them on today. Okay. What are the attributes that they give you guys? Somebody from the East Coast has no clue. If they see Indians, it's in New York City and they think they're Mexicans. What do they think of American Indians? What are the attributes they give you? If they were to identify you, if they were to identify somebody on the reservation, how would they identify them? Drunk.
Drug addict.
Yeah. Drunk, maybe
Poor.
abused. Poor. Yeah.
You know,
Horrific.
this guy I used to date, when I first met him, he was a white guy, Mexican. He seen some Indians that were drinking in front of a store, and because I'm Indian, he just automatically assumed that he had to go over there and give them money. And I told him, I said, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I just wanted to give them some money so they'll have something for their next, drink or something. And I was like, oh, okay. But I noticed he was like being really nice to like
Other Indians.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God,
How upside down and backwards is that?
But his family was so racist towards Indians, it was crazy.
Was this in Montana?
No, this was in Wyoming.
Wyoming, okay. They're different in Wyoming. Have you ever noticed?
They're like the Ku Klux Klan.
They're so clueless. It's, you know, there's Wind River's right there. Well, so why don't they understand who American Indians are? They're just dumb as dirt.
Exactly, yeah, they're, I don't know, I have a daughter from that relationship, so,
Well, congratulations.
yeah.
I'm sure she's a wonderful person.
And the only reason I got with him is because he was really nice looking.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pretty people. Okay. I'm glad he was pretty. Okay.
He's still pretty.
We're gonna slap you.
Yeah, like I can talk. My second wife was so attractive that that guys would hit on her when I was walking. That was so bad. So I'll see you guys next week. And I will put together a beauty, your idea of what beauty is. I got it right here.
I want mine number one. Just kidding.
Marie Antoinette. Most of you picked Marie Antoinette, I'm sure.